Hello everyone, here we are today finishing the NFC with Detroit Lions. And I feel like, with the pictures that I put up, sometimes it's funny pictures, sometimes I cannot make AI generate the pictures exactly as I would. Here, I think this is Lions picture through and through, because if you think that this wounded animal that has been through so freaking lot, and you don't feel like the road to the Super Bowl leads to them, or that they are somehow not going to effing scare you, not going to break you down, not going to make you almost for certain lose next week because they are going to be super fucking tough, then you are wrong. I think they have had tremendous losses. At the same time, at this point, like after last year, they are used to it, and they should be scary once again. So, if you can look at this and not be scared, if you look at the Lions and the history of what they have done, and you feel like new flashy teams, they are going to be better than this, I think you are out there for a rude awakening, because Lions are not going anywhere, at least in my opinion. Now, it has been tough off season, and quite frankly, it has been tough end of the year, because once again, the Super Bowl has escaped them, and for second year in a row, it sucks for them. And especially last year, they were freaking special. Going 15-2 with at one point 22 injuries from their starting 53. From that, 19 was on defense. That's effing crazy. So let's talk about what the Lions are. And as we usually start, we do it with this year's draft. And do I put myself up for a failure when I am actually going to be critical of at least some part of these drafts? Because over and over again, they had tremendous drafts. Last 3 years, holy hell, holy effing hell. And a lot of the times it was consensus doesn't like it, what you're doing, Lions. You cannot take Jahmyr Gibbs so high. You cannot take Jack Campbell in the first round. What are you doing? I mean, you are actually taking Penei Sewell over Jamar Chase? Oh, good luck with that. No, they have been special. So, why am I going to be critical? Well, because that's, I don't want to say it's my job, but it's I feel like obligation to be honest as how I think about these guys drafted here and the value. And there's one pick in special where I'm going to be crazy long and just waiting when Lions are going to prove me wrong. But let's start with Tyler Williams. I think this is absolutely solid pick. Did I expected them to go more for an edge rusher, for a pass rusher? Yes, I did. I'm not going to lie. I really feel like having a guy opposite to Aiden Hutchinson would go a long way. And I don't think that what they have opposite of Aiden, barring miracle of Marcus Davenport staying healthy, which would be a miracle at this point of his career, where unfortunately his body just cannot keep up. Yeah, I felt like they would go for that. They didn't, but at the same time, I'm definitely not discouraged by this pick, because I think Tyler Williams was very nice value. And at the same time, you don't need number 2 going from an edge when you have freaking Ali McNeil, to complement Aiden Hutchinson in terms of a pass rush. And what Tyreek does is he ensures you that you aren't going to get to those pass rushing downs, because it's going to be hella tough to run on this guy. He's one of the best run defending tackles in this class, which says a lot because this was hella draft for defensive tackles. And he's ready to play. So, would I go different route? Probably. Am I surprised by this guy, or do I not think he's going to be great success? Absolutely not. I think this is a very good pick. I could have done something better, but maybe not. And I definitely think the fit is very, very nice. Then in round 2, Tate Ratledge. Again, in this draft, we saw shortcoming of interior offensive linemen. And then some fell off for some weird reason, like Jared Wilson and Miles Frazier, who they got in first round. I'm freaking value, but we will talk about it later. And Tate Ratledge, I think, again, was it a little bit too early? I guess so. But especially if they knew about Frank Ragnow's retirement, Lions, it was like, yeah, we absolutely freaking need to. And I like this pick even with Frank Ragnow, and I actually liked it even more with Frank being there, because then it would be Frank, and next to him, well, you have veteran that you are waiting for these young guys to overcome in Graham Glasgow. And then you have Christian Mahogany, who was exceptional in 3 games that he played last year, and now Tate Ratledge, who I think is really potentially a starting guard in the league. So that's a really nice group. Suddenly, this group is much more thinner when you don't have probably the best center in the league, not named Creed Humphrey last year, and like even there, like I would actually, like, for some teams, I would pick Frank Ragnow over Creed Humphrey, because I love this dude attitude, and I'm just so freaking sad that he retired. Like, we will get to that. So I think Tate Ratledge, absolutely fine pick. Now, to the one that I have huge problem with, and that's Isaac Tesla. So, Isaac Tesla, I think, in terms of measurements and everything, like he has it. He has potential to be, really nice number 2 in the league. I think it's there. But he is so freaking raw in terms of, like, he just didn't have pretty much any production on college. Like, they did not use him. And at the same time, like, that within itself would probably justify me giving this like C, perhaps even C minus, but probably just C. At the same time, like, going to get this guy, sacrificing 2 third-round picks next year, that's just tough sell to me. Like, I no, like, I can, like, you sacrifice that if you think you are getting one missing piece towards your Super Bowl puzzle, and I'm like okay with that. But like, I think when I look at this roster, and if Isaac Tesla has 0 snaps on this offense in this year, I'm like, will we notice? Will we notice? And maybe in year or 2 he can be really nice complement to JMO and Amon-Ra, okay, and like kind of justify this pick. But at the same time, I really feel like, this is obviously one of the years you want to win Super Bowl, and I don't think Isaac Tesla is a like needle mover in this equation to justify spending so much resources on him. Like, I just cannot get behind this. I had a lot of time, I had a lot of praise coming from like Lions, etc. on Isaac. I just cannot get behind it. I think you stay put at like 102. I think they were. If he's there, take him. And at that point, it's like whatever, C, I guess. For me, it's like still a little bit raw, but I trust you. And it's kind of fine. But like really going to get this guy, no, no for me. I'm sorry, and I hope he proves me wrong. Like, every time you see a guy graded poorly here, it's not like I have anything against the guy. I hope he totally proves me wrong, and I will be gladly looking like an idiot. I don't have that, how to put it, like arrogance that it will be like, well, like just for me to be right, I wish this young man career is going to be bad. Like, hell no. Isaac, be great, please. Now, with what they did on day 3, I think like it was a bunch of okay picks. Dan Jackson, Ahmed Hassanain, like okay-ish picks, and then it was one really special. And as of right now, like with Frank Ragnow's retirement, I think it's even like A+ pick, because I think Miles Frazier is a tremendous value, and he gives you a 4th body to perhaps even compete for a starting job with Christian Mahogany, with Tate Ratledge, and potentially with Graham Glasgow. Like, he is kind of what you wanted Tate Ratledge to be to Graham Glasgow and Christian Mahogany in Frank Ragnow era. Now he's Miles Frazier to all of these 3 guys. Like, any one of these guys slips, I think you have really nice potential starter in Miles Frazier, and get this in the 5th round. That's hell of a pick. So totally nice job. Overall, like Isaac Tesla and his draft like is going to drag this one down for me. But other than that, they address their issues. Do I miss second edge? I do. Again, like if it was up to me, and instead of Isaac Tesla, you got, I think Princeton Mamillan was there. as like a pass rush specialist, and you unleash, like you get there with Tyreek Williams, DJ Reader, Hutch is solid, Ali McNeil, you get to third downs, and then you have Princely Mamiela, and you have Aiden Hutchinson, you have Ali McNeil rushing the quarterback. I think that's an impact this year. I don't think Isaac Tesla is going to be that impact this season, so to me, sacrificing so much for the future just does not feel right. But, like I said, I hope I will be wrong on this one. Let's just, I'm just going to, Landon Jackson was there. Princely Mamilan, yeah, he was there, 77, totally would get there. I wouldn't even mind, like, going to, like, Shavon Reveler out. Like, when you feel like, well, Rocketstraw struggled last year, we might have a spot for another corner to compete. Again, I think that would be more justifiable than going for Isaac Hill. But Dan Campbell, just prove me wrong. You can do that. You can do that all the freaking time. And I wish you that. So, here, leave the draft. And now let's take a look at how this offense is going to look like. And for the first time for Jared Goff led offense in Detroit, he's going to be without Ben Johnson. And obviously, a lot of people are talking about losing Ben Johnson, like that he is this one of the best, if not the best offensive minds in the league. I would not be like so high to say that he is the best. I think with Sean McVay, like you have several tremendous head coaches that are like on the same level at least. But it's a huge loss, and I'm not going to sit here and saying it's not. And lose him to the Bears, yeah, it probably sucks even more. At the same time, I do think that there is still a shit ton of talent left on this offense, and the basic that has been implemented towards what this offense is doing, they are not going to go away with Ben Johnson. I think you may lose the trick play stuff, you may lose some of the schematic advantages with Ben Johnson, like you are going to be worse without Ben Johnson, like, and it's like impossible not to be. At the same time, do I expect them to fall off drastically? I don't. I would even argue that for as much praise I do give Ben Johnson, like the amount that you are losing, like moving from him to next offensive coordinator here, is less than you are losing with Frank Ragnow's retirement. I think that to me is like, it starts to feel like last year and the story of this defense. Like first you lose Aiden Hutchinson, and this defense, should not be as good as it is, but they continue to do so. And then you lose Ali McNeil, and they still continue to be great, which, is how I feel about this offense. At the same time, when the most high leverage situations, when we are in the playoffs, when it really freaking matters, that's where I'm like, you will feel that, just as Lions did with this defense last year. So to me, losing Ben, it was always going to happen. And I felt like they were preparing themselves for it. Losing Frank so early into his career, like, is he, what he is, like 30, how old is he? Like 30, he's 29, like, come on, man, like, you pissed me off. So I think that's actually something that you will feel even slightly more, in my eyes at least, because the drop-off is so significant, from having this absolutely steady presence next to who Tate Redledge, Christian Mahogany, Miles Frazier can develop and Graham Glasgow can work. Yes, I think that's a substantial loss. And in terms of leadership, oh my God, don't tell me about leadership and Frank Ragnow. Like the stories and the images of him like clearly being freaking hurt on the sideline, and it was 2023 playoffs, and like he's going there playing every snap, and it's like he can barely walk at some point, and still like he's so dominant. I'm like, dude, I freaking love this guy. And I was not mentally ready for him to retire just year after Jason Kelsey. I mean, don't do this to me. At the same time, it's like, it's absolutely his choice, obviously. When he wants to take care of his body, of his family, who am I to say no? But just from a fan perspective, I freaking loved him as a player, and I'm going to miss him so freaking much. So, yeah, I'm pissed off. I really am. At the same time, in which state does this leave this offensive line? I think, last year we had a conversation about, is this the best line in football? How close they are towards the Eagles. right now, I don't think we have that conversation. I think in terms of tackles, you have one of the best. I think Penei Sewell is easily top 3 overall tackle in the league. Him, Verse, Dan Williams. You obviously have Lane Johnson and Jordan Mailata from the Eagles. Like, those are hella players. I think Penei Sewell in a lot, I would say in most of rankings, he would be a top 3, and he's there for me. Like, he is freaking insane. And Tyler Decker, like, I don't think he's probably top 10 left tackle, which is crazy. At the same time, he's damn good player, and it's just this abundance almost of great left tackles. And with the league that has almost abundance of them, Dan Moore getting 20 million a year is just weird. But we will get to Titans, like I think in 2 weeks, something like that. Don't worry, Titans are coming. So in terms of tackles, you ain't worried. And you have Dan Skipper as a backup, who is like really nice, like on some teams, he could be starting and kind of being the guy that you are waiting to replace. At the same time, when you have him as a rotational tackle and sometimes like a fullback, and they can do some funny shit with him. Though obviously, like we will see if Ben Johnson's funny shit is going to like completely get lost from this offense. Yeah, I think you are happy with that Skipper. Now, in terms of interior, I have questions. I definitely do have questions because as of right now, it has like ESPN at least has Graham Glasgow moving to center and being there. There were obviously a lot of talks about Tate Rettich going to play center, so I'm not certain who is going to take those reps. And truth to be told, either one of them, I don't feel secure. I think the drop-off is huge. And whilst with Christian Mahogany, like you felt like, well, losing Kevin Zeitler, despite having great season, we have a guy in line that we really trust. At the same time, like this dude fell off in the draft because of injury concerns, and last year he was not available for like 10 weeks because of an injury. Then he stepped on the field and he was freaking awesome. So, like I raised him from good backup to decent starter after 3 games. Like that tells you how freaking dominant he was. But, can he sustain that production? Can he avoid injuries? Those are legit question marks. And if this is a guy that, he's kind of your 5th piece, Frank Ragnow, Graham Glasgow, you have this elite guy, solid guy, and potentially elite guy that you can count on. Okay, now he's kind of the guy that he needs to be out there. Like, I think drop off from him to Miles Frazier is there. And that scares me a little bit because as good as I think Jared Goff is, and we will talk about Jared in a moment, I think interior pressure is absolutely the biggest thing that you can pull against Jared Goff, and that he just cannot avoid. I think he saw it all in terms of pressures and everything. He has answered to almost everything, but with his mobility, interior pressure, I don't think he necessarily has answered to that. And with this interior offensive line, there is a lot of questions how bad they actually could be. Like, Graham Glasgow, I think even though I still have him as like a good starter, he's much more closer to like decent starter. He's kind of the borderline guy that you perhaps wanted to try to replace with Mahogany, with Rettich, etc. And now he's kind of your, as of now, probably the best piece, the guy you count on, the guy that maybe has to, switch from guard to center. I have questions. I definitely have questions. And I didn't have them last year about this interior with Kevin Zeitler, Frank Ragnow, and Graham Glasgow. Like, it's a significant downgrade. In time, this could be a special unit. I really think highly of Rettich, Mahogany, and Frazier. Like, if for 2026 we are talking here about important starter in Mahogany, good starter in Rettich, and decent starter in Frazier, and they are actually overcoming Graham Glasgow and looking really good, I will not be shocked. But for a team that, it's Super Bowl or bust in a way, Jalen Carter, you probably have to go through Philly. Jalen Carter is awaiting, and when he is looking at this, I think he's licking his lips. Now, Jared Goff. Another quarterback that, not surprisingly, a lot of people have, I would say, a lot of opinions of Jared Goff. Like, was he just a guy made by Ben Johnson or made by this great offensive line. And I even question paying him last of season. And the reason for me questioning paying Jared Goff was not about his ability. I think he is a borderline top 10 quarterback. At the same time, with one thing that I feel like he would struggle more than other guys from that top 10 is the lack of mobility. And with that, some shortcomings that are going to happen when your offensive line is starting to decline in terms of quality, which kind of inevitably needs to happen when you are getting paid top 10 money to other guys from, Lions had great draft. So the top end quality, they could have that across the board. It's impossible to sustain that because of cap hit. So I had questions about that. And they are still there. I'm still not sold on the idea that we don't see a drop off from Jared Goff with diminished offensive line. I would even say, again, coming to the point of Ben Johnson, I think I'm worried about this interior more than I am worried about losing Ben Johnson. And I don't want this to sound like I don't think Ben Johnson is special. I truly believe that. At the same time, I think Jared is probably the best quarterback in terms of he's seen it all, he visioned it all, and he has answered to everything pretty much. He, here, in terms of pre-snap motions, everything, I think he has the answers. He's really a guy that, most of the time you are, he spends more of the time with his back against the defenses rather than facing the defense when actually after the play is open because of the RPO game. He just processes everything super fast. He might be the best processor in the league, and at least at worst he's a top 3. So that to me, I think Jared Goff is going to have a ton of answers, but I understand why there are questions. Are you a project of Ben Johnson? Can you handle this interior? And I think if this year I don't think he doesn't miss a beat. Almost 5,000 yards last year with the playoffs. I think he's going to slow down a little bit. But if he has 450 or close to 5,000 if they go to Super Bowl, yeah, I am absolutely okay with this. And kind of 2.5 touchdown to interception ratio. That's where I think after such a performance, nobody could say Jared Goff is not clear tier 2 quarterback in the league that you win with and because of, not necessarily on his shoulders, but because of. That's how good he is. That's how good he's been with Ben Johnson at least last 2 years. It's been consistent for, as of right now, 40 games. He needs to prove it this year. I think he will, but would I say that I'm 100% certain? No. But at the same time, unlike last year, I am not worried that he would regress past top 12, top 14, which, pre last year I was worried about that. With this offensive line, I would be worried last year much more than I am right now, because I truly think Jared Goff really just make a stamp on what he is as a player and how freaking good this guy is. Now, towards the weapons, and as we talk about, potentially, eventually, you will lose some quality. Well, they did not lose some quality in terms of the weaponry. All of these guys are pretty much on their rookie deal. We don't count. Amon-Ra is, I think he's still on his rookie deal despite having signed the extension. I think that goes for Sam Laporta as well. Yeah, so they are only 13.9 for Amon-Ra, and for Sam have this dude is just 2 years in the league. I sometimes forget he's so damn good. Okay, so with Amon-Ra, this year his cap hit is only 14 millions. Next year is going to be 33. The cap hits are going to rise, so they will lose some of this talent, but at the same time, not right now. And as I talked with Vikings, and they're top 5 in Hawkinson, Josh Oliver, JJ, Jordan Addison, and Aaron Jones. This is a 5 that definitely competes with them. And if you say it's a better 5, I understand why. Like, to me, like, the value of Justin Jefferson is just super, super high that I would probably take those guys over this, but at the same time, like, what does this 5 guys does not allow you to do? Like, you want the hammer, you have David. You want the flash, you have Jameer. And you want freaking taking everything over the top, you have JMO. Everything underneath, you have Amon-Ra, you have Samuel Porta. Good fucking luck defending that. Like, it's almost impossible. And especially with Jared Goff, who, like, you try to screw him with coverages and stuff. Like, it's not surprising that the one offense that Vikings just could not handle at all, despite Brian Flores, like, scheming genius, was the Vikings, was the Lions. Like, they just could not handle this. And not necessarily, like, obviously the talent, I think, works for the Lions, but it's like Jared Goff and his decision making and processor is like perfect answer for Brian Flores that's trying to confuse you. Jared Goff did not get confused against Vikings last year, and they were able to dismantle them. Now, what is there to say about these guys? Really not much. There is only way. Like, the only way is kind of up. Like, Jahmyr Gibbs, I don't think he's at his best yet, which is scary. I think that same goes for Samuel Porta. I think for Amon-Ra, he's probably maxed out, but he's maxed out as like a best slot wide receiver in the league and one of the easily top 10 wide receivers. I would probably have him in my top 7. Not sure about top 5, but definitely somewhere around 5 to 7. And David Montgomery, I don't think he's old enough to drop off, and especially when he's 60-40 or 70-30 back, when he doesn't, the wear and tear on his body is not the one of Josh Jacobs and Derrick Henry, when majority of the carries goes to him. And with JMO, I think the only way is up. He figured it out last year. He, I don't want to say become a man, but in a way, yes. He has been adult last year, stayed out of trouble, and really, it started to click. And it's not only about being one of the best deep threats in the league, but he actually can and started to use the threat of the speed to just create a lot of separation and just going for 10-15 yards comebackers, because defense are trying to, they are giving him the space, because if you don't, then it's 50 yards, touchdown, and goodbye. So kind of the only way is up, which is nasty. Then one of my favorite signings is getting Tim Patrick back on $2.5 million. I don't get it, man. When I talk about Kevin Zeitler, how cheap he got with the Titans, I just don't understand how the Lions were able to get Tim Patrick so cheaply. This guy was number 2 for Broncos for several years. He was really good at that position, but the problem was injuries. And pre-last season, the fact that he got cheap contract because he was kind of like Marcus Davenport of we will talk about Marcus. That's we don't believe he can stay healthy, but he kind of stayed healthy last year, and he was a damn good number 3. And if you focus on these 5 guys, Tim Patrick is going to make you pay, and get this guy back for $2.5 million. It's tremendous value. And that kind of goes back to my point with Isaac Tesla. He's not here. He's not even on the backups, and I'm again, if he plays 0 snaps, I'm not sure I will notice. So, but I will stop bashing him after this, because it's not about him. It's about, as a pick of itself, it's not bad pick, not horrendous pick in terms of value. I just struggle to see it. Now with the backups, I think this is pretty solid room. Frank Ragnow as your number 3, I would probably prefer if they drafted someone in this very deep running back class. I feel like there were even some really nasty picks, 6-7 round deep. So I wonder why they didn't. I don't necessarily think Craig Reynolds is a guy that you want to prolong next year. I mean, he is a cheap option. He's kind of solid, but the upside is not there. And I really feel like this was the year to draft a guy. Perhaps they trust Sionavaki, whom they drafted last year. We have not seen him pretty much play at all last season. Now, in terms of offensive line, I really feel like this group is kind of 7 deep, though with how unproven the starting 2 guards are in Tate Ratledge and Christian Mahogany. I would like one more piece of say, low starting and veteran to be here to just, like, let's say, calm me down, like guy like Matt Pryor, or not necessarily saying Matt Pryor for the system, but like some guy of this type of quality that would kind of raise the floor in case Miles Frazier, Taylor Rutledge, and Christian Mahogany, we cannot find like two quality starting guard amongst them. Then Skipper will talk about it, like very solid backup tackle. Brock Wright, your blocking specialist, definitely a guy that they love to have in the room, that helps with their run game. Nothing more than that, but you kind of don't need nothing more than that. And Calif Raymond, again, like solid piece. You know, as your fourth wide receiver, I think he's a very good, very nice player. So, you know, Isaac Tesla will need to overcome him and Tim Patrick to really get a solid opportunity. In terms of QB, it's probably still Hendon Hooker. It could be Kyle Allen. I don't know. Like, I think they are one of the teams that if their QB goes down, the season is probably over. Though, like, you know, after what they were able to overcome last year with the injuries, like, can I even say that? I don't know. Like, I know that Dan Campbell would not let them, like, think the season is over, but I think the drop-off would be just too big. You know, sneaky, like, you know, just in case something happens to Jared Goff, you know, like the calls for Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson, maybe. Though with like Kirk, it's like I don't think in terms of money you can do that. But with Russell Wilson, you know, week 7, I think that could be an option for them. Like for Giants, they would have natural like move for Jackson Dart. It might be even at the time where like Brian Dable with like potential 1-6 start, when like you look at their schedule, it's freaking nasty. So it could be like, okay, we fired Brian Dable, we don't have aspiration, we want to start Jackson Dart. So Russell, we are taking calls, and Detroit was like, well, fuck, we lost Jared Goff, so let's bring Russell as like experienced veteran. I think that could work. We will see. But obviously, like that's like worst case scenario in which Jared Goff goes down, which I totally, absolutely hope that it's not going to happen. Am I a little bit worried about that with the interior? Yes, I am. But it's just like dark scenarios for this team. Now, towards defense, let's sum this offense up. I have questions about interior, as I said over and over again. That's my main concerns. Second is obviously the drop-off from Ben Johnson. But at the same time, like if interior plays solid, I don't think this is going to be any less than like top 5 offense in the league. Now, towards defense, and we will start with Aiden Hutchinson, because what he's done, like in those 4.5 or 5 games that he's been on the field last year, it was historic. Like he was unstoppable. Barring like he did most of his damage against like low-level tackle opponents, so I would say like he would not be really like keeping this pace up towards the end of the year. At the same time, it was freaking insane. And the question is, how good is he going to be back like this season? Because the injury he sustained, usually before you really get go at 100%, it usually takes like a year or a little bit longer, which like would put him at midpoint of the season. So the expectation that Hutch is going to be just left continue where he left, it could be a problem. It could be like, if you have these expectations, you might be there for like rude awakening. At the same time, is he going to be at worst like top 10 edge in the league? Yeah, I think that's absolutely the case. And I think at best, he can challenge Myles Garrett as early as this year. Like he was freaking insane. So I'm so happy that he, like everything seems to be going right, and we will see him back. Next to him, Ali McNeil, like what a breakout year for him. I think like when Hutch went down, it was really like he emerged as a true game wrecker and a guy that like can give you everything you want from your number 2 pass rusher, and especially from interior guy. Totally very, very nice weapon. And again, like if he was able to do this as their clear number 1, because DJ Reader did not necessarily have a great season. Like he was good run stopper, did not offer too much in terms of pass rushing ability. So it was really Alim and like bunch of guys from the street at some point, and Alim was able to still generate pressures, even some sacks. And now it's going to be Hutch, and hopefully DJ Reader has a kind of a comeback season, and Alim can develop. Like yeah, excited. With DJ, I was super high on this signing last year. I felt like they got a true bargain. And I would say he played towards that contract. I don't think it was a bad contract, but it was not a bargain. Like I felt a little bit underwhelmed given what my expectation for DJ Reader were, given that they were only able to sign him for only what it was like 2 years, 22 millions. I felt like at this point that was freaking bargain, and it was another guy like that struggled with injuries, and he was healthy last year, but he was kind of just really good, nothing more. I was like, well, last time he was able to stay healthy the whole year, he was one of the top 10 defensive tackles in the league, which was not the case last year. But, as your number 3, hell yeah, sign me up. Now, towards the number 2 spot, like, I think they still have Marcus Davenport, as a starter here. And I'm like, I wish that this guy can stay healthy, but it just has not been the case for 4 years right now. It's just way too long. Till we got 10 games from him. I hope it's going to happen. If it does, this is obviously tremendous value. But even by my grade, you see, the chances of him playing more than 5 games, I would say, are 30%. And to really feel like they are slightly counting on him to be there, it worries me. So from that procedure, I'm not a huge fan. If you told me he is your number 4 guy, that he's kind of your Christian Watson or Romeo Dobbs for Packers wide receiver room. If he's there, if he's healthy, great. Defenses, watch out. But we really need to think or have the mentality that he is not going to be there, and therefore we need to draft Matthew Golden if we are Packers. So the fact that they, from what they done, count on this, that's probably the biggest worry I have about this defense. But still, even if your edge 2 is kind of mediocre, which in terms of backups, they have Josh Pascal, that could be something with Derek Barnes, but not necessarily too much. If that's the case, you can definitely work it out when you have such a insane the rest of the defensive line. But you get that. You get why I'm little bit disappointed with what I think is the mentality. And once again, if Marcus stays healthy, I think he's going to be tremendous for them, and I don't wish it to be any other way. I just think in terms of percentages, I cannot count on it. Now, towards the linebackers, this is nice room, deep room. You have Derek Barnes, you have Malcolm Rodriguez, who are not even here, and you have your starting duo, I think, in Jake Campbell and Alex Anzalone. I think on Jake, I might even be too low with a good starter. He's tremendous, throwback linebacker. He's going to help stop the run. He's going to tackle his ass off, and he's actually pretty good in coverage. In terms of pass rush, there is not too much upside of him. The athleticism in that phase is kind of lacking. And at the same time, can this still be a top 10 linebacker in the league? Hell yeah. And as early as this year, hell yeah. Another pick that was highly questioned by a lot of people when Lions made it. I think I would be one of those. And I think he is just proving them right. He is what they absolutely envision him to be, just like a brick wall that it's going to hurt you. When Jake Campbell is tackling you, it's going to freaking hurt. Next to him, you have Alex Anzalone, who's, I would say at this point, not smaller version, but slightly less good of a player than what Jake Campbell is, that can do very similar things, that is asked of very similar things, and that would start on pretty much every linebacker room at worst number 2, and on 10 of them, 15 of them as number 1. So having this guy as number 2, especially when you have Derek Barnes and Malcolm Rodriguez as your kind of backups that you can use in certain packages. I mean, it's interesting that we went from don't give a shit about linebackers in across the entire league towards, I would still argue, 2 best teams in this conference in Eagles and Lions actually have nasty, deep LB rooms with really nice starters. It's interesting. It's just interesting to me. So overall, you are super happy with this room. You are, I think, super excited about this defensive line, with one minor thing that's like, if we could have, another edge, Princely Mamilan here, I would feel superbly about this defensive line. Now, in terms of backups, we already talked about Derek Vance, Malcolm Rodriguez, and in terms of defensive line, they have shit ton of depth, especially in terms of defensive tackles. They have shit ton of depth for defensive tackles, and they have depth that scares me in terms of edge. I think Josh Pascal is a solid player, nothing more than that. And as of right now, I would say he's going to be their starter for 14 games. And as of right now, he's actually injured, so that's not good. The thing is, can you perhaps move some odd fronts? Yeah, I guess with Levy on Vozurike, who on a lot of teams he would actually be one of two, the second starter. I really feel like he's that good, and have him as, in some cases, as an afterthought, because I definitely think Tariq Williams is going to fight for his position. This group is definitely primed to lose DJ Reader for next year and not miss a beat, because Levi, I think, is one of the best DT3 in the league that is going to be here for a long time for the Lions. And in Tyreek and Alec McNeil, you have a super nice interior duo. There is not even room for Roy Lopez, who is this savvy veteran that, he's kind of close to a decent starter. He was 2 years ago, he was starting in the league and playing solid, but kind of one of those replaceable guys that you want to get better than him, but if he's your fifth option, I mean, that's pretty damn good. So one question, depth in terms of this edge room. That's all I have about this defensive line and this linebacker room. Other than that, it's those are special rooms, man. And it's I think you are understanding why I'm yeah, they've lost a lot, but I mean, they didn't have so many of these guys, and they were still 15-2 last year. So now towards the secondary, and again, this is absolutely not a bad secondary. Yet it has at least one question mark, and that one question mark is corners. Darren Arnold last year, kind of disappointing year. He allowed more than we would like, and especially when you compare it to Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, they had a season when they announced to the NFL we are here, Sauce Pat, we are not afraid to change the narratives. Derek Stingley, yeah, we are here, be afraid. In the case of Darren Arnold, it was I'm here, I'm going to play, but definitely fell short compared to these guys by a country mile. And this is, I don't think necessarily have to say a big year, but in terms of that he would get replaced next off season. But at the same time, they need him to be better than what he was last year if they want to win a Super Bowl. Make it easy as that. I don't think you can go into a year and expect to hold on across the tough shit playoff if Darren Arnold and his Ragnow are kind of as mediocre as they were last year. It was still a solid season for them as first year corners, especially when a lot of pass rush went down and they needed to hold for a longer time. It was still solid season. I'm not saying they were busts, but they need to get better. This was their huge investment last year, and unlike a lot of previous high investments, it has not paid off yet. But I think it definitely could this year. If not, you have Amik Robertson to be your nickel starter, starting from nickel. He's going to be I would say the placeholder before Ennis Ragnow can challenge him for that spot. And he's a very solid dude, solid player, and nice signing here. So as a kind of base level starting slot, yeah, you can definitely do much worse than Amik Robertson, and very solid player. Now their one big acquisition here was DJ Reed for 16 million a year. They added some void years to make it look even more stomachable for their cap hits in upcoming seasons. What are we doing? How he was so cheap? Why did you go for Brandon Stevens over DJ Reed Jets? or like was it more in terms of DJ Reed? Well, I don't necessarily care too much about money. I want to win, which after years with Jets, I imagine that could be a really good motivation. So they kind of replaced Carlton Davis with DJ Reed. I think they got, similar quality of a player with less injury proneness for, I think, less amount of money that Patriots paid Carlton Davis. So nice move. I think he's their clear number one corner and a guy that there is going to be a lot on his plate, but I think he was in the shadows of Sauce Gardner for 3 years right now. So it's going to be very interesting to see really move from number 2 to number 1 for him. That's a little bit of a question at the same time. Last year, he probably played better than Sauce. So I do trust and like this signing. But if there is a problem potential, especially in this division with Justin Jefferson and all the other weapons that Bears, Packers, and Vikings have, this corner room could be it. And it's not the safety. Brian Branch, Kirby Joseph, out of the top of my head, I don't think there's a better safety duo in the league. Kirby Joseph had insane year. The amount of picks he got, they were game changing. He had absolutely deserved Pro Bowl season, and I think if he continues to be what he was last year, I think going to an amazing starter is going to happen very, very soon next year. In terms of Brian Branch, he slowed down a little bit at the end of the year. He was not necessarily a guy that would be that Aiden Hutchinson and then Ali McNeil, and then they probably look at Brian Branch to be the guy for them. But at the same time, I think it was partially because they asked him to do everything. With Alim, you are still defensive tackle, you will do anything, you just have less help. And okay, I can do that. I can be the guy that really does it and then really gets you over the edge. But with Brian, it's we kind of miss everybody. So with 4 or 5 snaps, you're going to be here, then here, then here, then here, then here, and just try to manage this one. And I think finally, it was too much on his plate that he, actually looked like just a great player. Which I don't think he's just great. I think he's exceptional, and I'm ready to move him towards elite status because I believe they will ask slightly less of him this season, and he's going to absolutely excel at that. So overall, damn good secondary with some questions, but damn good secondary, and it kind of finishes the damn good defense, and damn good overall team. So there is, I would say, kind of a disrespect towards the Lions. This was a 15-2 team that lost 22 players at one point. I understand Frank Ragnow, Ben Johnson, and Aaron Glenn, who we will finish this discussion on, they are huge losses. And when you look at last year and how much those, I would say, big trio in terms of losses are going to impact them going this year, I actually feel it's been undersold how much they will miss Aaron Glenn, because when you look at defensive coordinator, that perhaps he's not this Mike McDonald that everybody's talking about, Jesse Minter and this new school of insane schematic geniuses. I mean, dude was able to put up in some games championship level defense, especially at the crucial games against the Vikings, with guys that literally walked in from the street and did not play for anyone last year. He was able to do that week after week. Let's really go from, we have Hutch, he's tearing everything apart, to we don't have Hutch, now Alim needs to step up. Now we don't even have Alim. Every phase of this defense, as it progressed with less and less and less of talent, was still damn good defense. Still in terms of points conceded, they were top 6, top 7, with monthly crew of players. Insane what he was able to do. And not only from schematics, because they were playing really, really super aggressively, which in some games it didn't work. Some of the quarterbacks were able to, really punish them. But it was if we do that, we have a chance. If we don't, we cannot win it with the guys that we have. We have to be super, super aggressive. And they had, and it was not about that, just throw everything and hope it sticks. There was a lot of prowess on it, and at the same time, I feel it was a lot of keep the belief. I would say it's super hard for guys to keep super focused and mentally strong when you feel like you are always losing. Like every game you are losing a great player. Like it goes down like this, like this, like this. And some of the cases you are losing one of the best players in the league. And you need to still keep believing. You need to communicating with guys that you have not met prior to this week, and now they are starting next to you. That requires a lot of great leadership, and I'm encouraged by what Aaron Glenn is actually doing with the Jets. And I think like with a lot of talk about Ben Johnson, like he is the headline. I think like after this episode, I'm going to be called Ben Johnson hater, which I'm not, but I think I feel like losing Frank Ragnow and losing Aaron Glenn, I would actually put it on a very, very similar level to losing Ben Johnson. And it's just not the disrespect to Ben, it's just a huge amount of credit to Frank and Aaron Glenn that perhaps, especially in terms of Aaron Glenn, did not necessarily get it from media and everyone around. I think he was special for the way this defense was able to overcome so many obstacles last year. Now, with that being said, let's focus on the schedule. Okay, let's start with the backups for the secondary. I don't think they are necessarily there. Like, I think they are really 6 deep, and that scares me. Like, maybe Avante Maddox. I don't know. Like, really, the depth here kind of scares me. I would not be surprised if they looked in the training camp and it's like, well, we probably need at least one more guy to complete this group, and they would make a call towards some of the veterans that are still unsigned. Now, finally, towards the schedule, I have them finish at 11-6, which is like losing 4 games from last year. Again, I don't think that's disrespect to how good this team is. It's just regression to mean. Like, going 15-2 in NFL, it's freaking hard. Going 15-2 in this division is almost impossible. So I think they will miss a beat in terms of like how many wins they are going to accumulate. Will they necessarily be a worse team than they were last year? I don't necessarily think that's going to be true. So I think both of these statements that can be correct. One, they will win less games and like much less games than they did last year. B, it doesn't mean that they are significantly worse team. Now, towards the storylines, first 6 weeks, return of the Hutch, like, man, it's going to be fun. And it's also like, he's going to face one of the league's best players on defensive line, so it's going to be really, really fun matchups. Like, especially games 4, 5, and 6. Myles Garrett, Trey Hendrickson, hopefully Bengals can figure out and pay him, or like he's going to actually go and be crazy and really play on this contract, which would be amazing as a team player, but not necessarily greatest business decision. And I really hate you Bengals for put him into that situation. And then Chris Jones, and it's no disrespect to like Nondi Maribike, Montez Sweat, Rashan Gary, but those are the matchups, like against Miles, against Trey, against Chris Jones. A return of the Hutch. I think after 4 weeks, if they are 4-2, that's pretty good, because like 3 games that they have on the road are at Lambeau, in Baltimore, and at Arrowhead. So like good luck winning those. Good freaking luck with new coordinators, with like questions in terms of interior offensive line. 4-2 is a good start. Now it doesn't get easy after that. Bucks, then the break, Vikings, and on the road at Eagles and at Commanders. Those to me are playoff tests, and my guy for this part of the season is Jahmyr Gibbs. Well, not only because he's going to face several like top rushing threats, Saquon Barkley, Jaden Daniels, Bucky Irving, but at the same time, Week 12 matchup against the Giants, again, that defensive line, I'm really excited. Like, this is low-key a game that I will probably just watch on repeat if everything is as I expect, because this could be a time where you will feel the pressure on Jared Goff, on Jahmyr Gibbs, because this offensive line is not as great as it was. And on the other side, I do expect to appear the best defensive line in football. So, if you want a game that you might absolutely think that Lions are going to win, but there is a potential for like Giants, I think, have a way of how they can beat Lions with just utter domination of their defensive line, which could happen, I think, and especially with Jared, not necessarily being super up against interior pressure, sexy Dexy there. That's one game I'm really kind of low-key excited that, when you look at the schedule, you would not think like Lions versus Giants at Lions, like who gives a shit about that game? It's going to be 35-10. It definitely can. At the same time, do I see scrappy win for Giants to happen in some situations? Hell yeah. Now, the last part of the season, they would enter 7-4, probably leading the division, but not necessarily having the firm grip on it. Now, to me, it's all about divide and conquer. Penei Sewell and this run game, I think it's going to dominate the end of the season and really still have a firm grip on this division. This might even be 5-1 because I don't think this is necessarily like super hard schedule. Though like at Rams, hard game, at Bears, it's not going to be easy. At Vikings, not really easy. But Packers at home, Dallas at home, Steelers at home, I think those should be 3 wins, truth to be told. And, maybe at Bears last week, it might not be a game that they will play starters the whole game, though it's Dan Campbell, so they probably will. But I still think it's going to be 4-2. And to me, they will repeat winning this division. I don't think they're going to be the number 1 seed. I feel like for that, the losses are kind of too substantial with how this division is insane that I actually predict them to be probably like number 3, number 2 seed. But can I see them getting number 1? Yes. It's just like on my averages, when I try to calculate everything, this is how I expect them to finish 11-6, keeping the grip on this division, and like a team that you don't want to play in regular season, you don't want to play after you played them in regular season. Like this is the best team to get if you have next week bye, because you need a lot of body work after playing the Lions. Can they win Super Bowl? Hell yeah. Will they? I don't know. Do they deserve it and do this like bunch of special players and special story for the entire city and the whole turnaround and then Campbell started here? Yeah, I think so. So I do wish them nothing but the best, but if you face Seahawks in the playoffs, I hope you lose. With the same, thank you very much for listening and watching the entire 16 episode on the NFC, and don't go anywhere because very soon, in 1 or 2 days, we will start with AFC. It's going to be almost daily content because NFL is approaching quickly and I will have you covered. Thank you very much for listening and see you next time. Bye bye.